welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. In this video, we're going to be starting a brand new lesson on how to paint a horse head, and we're going to be painting it in portrait style. I have a list of all the materials that I will be using, and for this portrait painting, it's probably best if you use acrylics or oils. You can use chalk pastels if you want to, but the techniques that I use are best for acrylics and oils. And here are the brushes that I use: a 2-inch flat wash, a number 10 bristle brush, a number 8 filbert, a number 10 flat brush, a number 6 flat brush, a script brush, and a short script brush, and you can also use a number 3 round. I'm using canvas board, or I can use gallery wrapped canvas. I like gallery wrapped canvases because you don't have to frame them. You can actually paint on the edges. And here are the paints that I use, and I usually use Grumbacher Academy or Liquitex, and they had cadmium red light, cadmium yellow light, burnt sienna, hooker's green, dioxazine purple, cadmium orange, phthalo yellow green, yellow ochre, phthalo blue, burnt umber, ultramarine blue, and for my white, I usually just use white acrylic gesso. And this is also kind of keeps your acrylic paintings from drying up so fast if you use the acrylic gesso. So I'm using Infinite Painter for Android, and I found a picture of a horse on Pixabay, and they have royalty-free photos there, and so I decided this would make a really nice study to show how to paint a horse head. And it has a really neat crescent moon shape on his head as well. So I'm using the number 2 pencil in Infinite Painter to just do this sketch. And if you want to follow along traditionally, you can either use vine charcoal and sketch it on the canvas. You can also use pencil if you want to. Or you can do this on a separate piece of paper. And if you're going to do a lot of erasing, like I usually end up doing, you might want to just go ahead and do this on a separate piece of paper and then use some graphite paper to trace it onto your canvas once you get your sketch finalized and refined. So I'm just kind of working on the horse and trying to get the proportions right, and make sure that you get the eyes on the same level. You don't want one higher than the other, so just kind of draw a little guideline if you need to across his head, and make sure that you get the inside eye level with the outside eye. And even though you can't see the outside eye really well, you can see the bump where it is, and so you just kind of line that up with the inside eye, and look at your photo reference. Make sure that you're following the photo reference and just kind of line it up. And here I have it about the same size as my drawing, so that actually helps to get the proportions correct when you have your photo reference the same size as your drawing. And if you want to do this traditionally, you can blow up the picture and make it big if you're painting on a big canvas. If you're just doing an 8x10, then there's no problem. You just print out a 8x10 size on your regular paper. And then here I went ahead and lightened the original photo that I had, and I like to do that because you can see the details then of the horse, especially on his jaw where it was really dark, and on his nose and his muzzle. You just want to go ahead and see all those details. So I like to really lighten up the original photo reference, just so I can see all the tiny little details of where the bone structure is and the muscles and things like that. And so that helps me to further refine the picture here, and that's what I'm working on, is just further refinements and trying to get it correct. And like I said, you might want to just do this step on another piece of paper and then transfer it onto your canvas later. In fact, that's what I do when I'm working on acrylics, because unless I'm doing something that doesn't need a lot of detail, like certain landscapes or something. If I'm doing people or animals and I really want to get the details correct, then I will do it on a separate sheet of paper and then transfer it. So now that I've got my sketch the way I want it and fairly accurate, I'm going to start with the underpainting on the horse. And underpainting is just your first layer of paint. And you use this in acrylic painting and in oil painting, not so much in watercolor. Watercolor, you work from light to dark. But here I'm working from dark to light, so I'm using darker brown colors, and I'm just kind of looking at where the highlights are on the photo reference and adding lighter colors of brown and gray on the horse's muzzle. And the darker brown places, I'm putting in a sort of a burnt umber color. If you're following along with your acrylics, you would use burnt umber, burnt sienna, throw in some white acrylic gesso, maybe some ultramarine blue. Just to get the grayish colors, you would use ultramarine blue and burnt sienna with a lot of white acrylic gesso. And we just kind of want to get the base colors in. And I'm throwing in a little bit of some lighter browns where you can see the highlights. And you could use cadmium orange light if you're following along with your acrylics. And here I'm just laying them down first, and then in the painter I will go ahead and blend these later. But if you're doing this with acrylics, blend them right as you put the paint down, because you don't want it to, you kind of want to smudge them together. You don't want it to get dry and then not be able to blend them. If you're doing oils, you'll be able to blend them later, just like you can in Infinite Painter. So I've got most of the colors that I want, and I'm going to go ahead and use some of the paintbrush category. I like to use the Leo brush or the Vince brush or any of them that kind of give you a painterly look, and I'm using that for blending in Infinite Painter. And you can also go back in and adjust the blending properties on each of these brushes so that they blend in as you lay the paint down. So here I'm just kind of trying to smudge in all the browns, and right now we're not looking for big detail. We just kind of want the general colors of the horse. So we just want to blend in the brown colors together, but not, you know, turn it into one brown color. We want these different colors to show. And I'm working on the horse's eye. You want to make it a dark brown and just kind of work on the shape of it. And so this is the end of part 1 of my horse painting. And in part 2, we'll go ahead and continue more details on the eye and start adding some more refinements and details to his nose and along the jawline, and just keep continuing to build up on the horse's face. So if you're interested in seeing that, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much for your support. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below, and I will catch you later.